Good morning and welcome to the Morning Burrito. I'm Michael.
I'm Eric.
It is 10 o'clock on Tuesday, and as always, I guess not always, but we are here with you to bring you insights and information and just
Deep
wonderfulness.
Bunch of deep thoughts.
It's like SNL.
Okay.
Saturday Night Live, they said deep thoughts with Jack Handy.
I do know what that is.
You remember that?
Yes.
That skit?
Well, I don't know what that skit, but I remember SNL.
Oh. Yeah, they used to have like poems, deep thoughts with Jack Handy. And
yes.
It was always like, and you da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. That's how it sounded.
Okay, well, we're not going quite down that road, but
no, but we man, dude.
You said wee. We're off to
it's
a
better than saying doo-doo.
We're off to a good show.
We have had over the last 20. This is 22 episodes now, counting.
Wow,
right.
22.
Over 21 episodes, we have talked about a wide gamut of topics and ideas, things, and I mean, the fact that we've gone from aliens to ghosts to Sabbath rest to I don't know,
and we've gone from burritos to coffee to now just water.
This is kind of lame, actually.
This is a lame morning to get us going.
We have a show called the Morning Burrito. No burritos. And we legitimately, for 6 weeks now, 5,
we've kind of cut back.
We haven't had any burritos in like 5 shows.
I know.
Okay, we're going to have to change this for next week.
My waistline is enjoying the no burrito thing, actually.
Good news, though. We did talk to an old local business, and they have given us permission to come and to do a live show at their location. So that's exciting.
Yeah, and actually, there's something else you don't know.
Oh.
I just talked to a second business today that said we can do one there, too.
Wow.
Yeah. However,
taking the Morning Burrito on the road.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if the second place has morning burritos. More like, well, it'll be a surprise.
Is that where you ate lunch today?
It is.
I knew it. I knew it. They're open in the morning.
I don't know.
Now, I don't know if they have morning burritos.
Yeah.
But
anyway,
they are
it was
open in the
good. It
morning.
was really good. It was really good. Check out my Facebook page. It's there. I won't say it now, but it's really good.
Yeah, they need to earn that. That plug.
It was good.
So anyway, we're going to talk today about idols. Idols. Now, when you're a pastor, so this is kind of hard to go back in time, but pre-pastor days, you talked a few weeks ago about, some of your past, and when you would have heard the word idol, what would that have conjured up in your brain? Like, what would you have thought?
Farrah Fawcett.
Yeah, she's old.
I know, but
Farrah Fawcett.
So I know my wife even knows that. That was my first crush. So yeah, and
Charlie's Angels, right?
Well, yeah, that was yeah. Bosley had the job. He was the man. So I don't know. I like the Hot Wheels Matchbox cars.
Ooh.
It was like I had cases of those cars.
Yep.
And I could never get enough of any certain model. It was just like a new one comes out and I just needed it. But that was back in the day when they were 69 cents. So
they were pretty cheap when I was a kid.
They were good, and they were metal. I mean, the metal ones.
Yep.
Yeah, before plastic was invented, I think.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know about invented, but before they put it into a match.
Yeah.
But I had Matchbox and Hot Wheels.
Oh, Matchbox all the way.
And
it's like Ford versus GMC.
Yeah, I didn't care.
Yeah.
Matchbox. Having the little cars, like my brother and I, we had one of those big, deep Tupperware tubs or whatever, and it was just trying to lift that thing as a kid was crazy. I mean, as an adult, it probably wasn't as bad, but I mean, it seemed like this heavy, and it's just car after car after car of Matchbox or Hot Wheels.
I had the little cases where each little car had its own little hole to go in. And
I never was that cool.
And clip it. And I had like 12 of these cases.
I never was that cool.
It was awesome. All the police in one, all the fire in another.
I remember my mom one year. I don't remember how old I was, but I remember one year for a birthday or Christmas or something, I got a rug that had the city on it. Did you ever have one of those?
I don't think so.
It was like this rug. It was probably 4 foot by 8 foot maybe. And, it sat out in the middle of my floor in my bedroom, and it had like a police station and a fire station.
Oh, I did
have
the roads
It had
that you
the
played
road
on, that you drove your cars on?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Dude, that was so cool.
Yeah.
Like, you had your own little city, and you had your fire trucks and your police cars and your city workers.
Yeah, we just got rid of that a couple years ago.
Yeah, that was great. That was my childhood for sure.
You know, another one of mine was I had two stuffed bears, teddy bears. One was black and white, called it Blackie, and one was red and white, and I called him Red. Anyway,
You were really creative.
I was an only child. That's all I had.
Well, I guess that explains some
But
things.
they went everywhere with me. I mean, they were my best buds.
The only real, I mean, I was not a girly kid, having stuffed animals like somebody.
Oh wow!
But I did have, for those of you who are millennials or Gen Xers, you'll remember this.
By a GI Joe.
No. You remember Beanie Babies?
I was a youth pastor when Beanie Babies came out. Yeah.
You're dating yourself again. So when I was a kid, Beanie Babies were just coming out, and if anybody, again, if you remember
They were
back to that time,
money.
the most expensive one for a long time, the one that was sought after, was this red bull.
Yeah.
And why, I don't know, but it was like the hot commodity was the Red Bull. And so my mom had bought me, before Beanie Babies were really a thing, I had been sick, and my mom bought me the Red Bull. And being a kid, I just tore the tag off of the thing. And I had this Red Bull for years, just in my room. It was always with me, this little Red Bull. Then come to find out, the Red Bull is worth like thousands of dollars or something, because it's the Red Bull and everybody wants the Red Bull Beanie Baby. Man, I could have made money if I would have just kept that stupid tag on it and kept it in a glass case or something.
Yeah.
But yeah, I had my bowl.
What about college? What about college age? Do you have any idols that popped up in college?
Well, going backwards, my idol as a kid was Michelangelo from the Turtles.
Also a person.
Yeah. No, Turtles. Ninja Turtles.
Oh, okay.
I wanted to be a Ninja Turtle.
Yep. Or even your screensaver on your computer, your backdrop.
It was. It's not anymore, though.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so
you grew up.
So, and then, high school, college, idols. Man, I
was into the Christian world when it came into that. So like my idols were people like but I'm not gonna remember their names, but Oz Fox, drummer for the old school band Stryper. You know what I'm talking about?
Stryper.
Yeah, I know Stryper. And then
they're still together, I think.
Petra, and then the old group. There was this Indian dude that led the Imperials. You ever hear the Imperials? They're like this. I don't even know if they would be called a quartet, but anyway, my dad was really into the Imperials, and this Indian dude was really cool. He had the look, different than anybody that lived in my neighborhood, anyway. So anyway, those were some of mine.
No, I think for me, my idols as a young man were probably more geared towards people who invested in my life, which we may get to later. I don't know exactly where you're taking this conversation, but the people that I idolized, meaning I wanted to be like them. At the time, I was learning how to play guitar. I was learning how to sing, particularly late high school, early college. So I wanted to follow in the footsteps and be a Christian. I mean, this is back in the early days of Christian worship. So I guess you would have said like,
yeah, because they didn't worship in the first century church.
Well, no. I mean, like what we know as Christian worship bands. I mean, this was the early stages of that. So I really, really looked up to Mark Hall, the lead singer of Casting Crowns. He had a goatee like I did, so I thought I could be like Mark Hall. I also loved Tomlin back then. I mean, I still do, but I mean, Tomlin was just coming up, and David Crowder, his wacky self back then, doing. He had a Guitar Hero controller on stage and stuff in those days, and so yeah, I guess those would be the guys as far as like music that I was really engaged in. But I had more idols that were close.
Yeah, I think one of my idols that I like to dress like, besides Oz Fox and Stryper, was Miami Vice. Toby and what was the other guy's name? You'll know it. What is it?
I have no idea.
Okay, you know who Miami Vice is, though.
I know who they are. I don't know their names.
Yeah, well, you should. You know everybody else's names.
Yeah, I never watched Miami Vice.
Well, I had the. I could show you pictures.
Dude, you in a white suit would be great. With
it was white or turquoise, pinstripe.
You need the white suit with white suit jacket with the jeans.
Yeah,
like the bleached jeans.
I had them. Yeah.
And then you need to wear like a pink shirt under.
Had that too, with the white suspenders and the black shiny patent leather shoes. Oh, it's gorgeous. Oh, and then we're
finding out all kinds of new things about you today.
And then with the old mullet in the background, it was great. So
I can't picture you with a mullet.
Let's come a little closer to culture today. What are some things we have in our culture that look like idols?
Well, it's funny. We have television shows like American Idol.
Go figure.
We certainly have, in this day and time, our celebrity class of people are idolized to an extent that I don't know that they really ever have before. Maybe it's because of the access that people have to them through social media and other platforms. But I mean, there's certainly an idolatry that goes on of sorts with our celebrities today that we've never really seen. And, we have young-ish, I guess, congressmen and women who are in some ways idolized. Like an Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez is one of the most popular people in American culture. And she's been a congresswoman for like 3 years or whatever. So
I was going to say 2.8.
As far as outside of people, I would say one of the big idols in our culture is stuff and material items, which I don't know that that's really changed over time. That's something that's always
probably
existed.
Not. But I think one thing that has changed is, like, you touched on this American Idol deal, where the common people, us common folks, us non-Hollywood people, right, or us non-musician people, rock and roll, hard rock, Hall of Fame kind of guys, we're like all about, let's get the ticket, let's get the golden ticket to go on to the next level. And, we're okay being judged, which I think has changed a little bit. At least it's more, I don't know, prevalent, I think.
Well, I mean, if you go back to the 60s or thereabouts, 50s, 60s, when they had shows like American Bandstand, right?
Yep.
You had bands.
Yep.
You had artists that came in through that, but that wasn't a judge thing. That was there
was no moving on to anything.
Right. It was a display your talents and show what you got.
Right. Well, it's even like America's Got Talent. We love that show.
Sure, because and especially America's Got Talent, because it's all kinds of different things.
All kinds of things, but you're still after the one thing, and that's that ticket, that invitation to go to something else.
So maybe is the idol then, based on what we were just saying, is the idol fame itself, or recognition itself?
I think all of it, because one question, like on AGT, that they ask is like, so what are you singing, or what are you doing? And they always have the name of who they're doing it in, either memory of, or somebody, like you said, invested in their lives, or the poster they hang on their wall as a kid.
I was influenced by.
So yeah, it's huge. But I'll go all the way back even earlier than some of that. It probably was a 70s show. I don't know. It might have been a 60s show. I'm not sure. But the Gong Show. You ever see the Gong Show?
Heard of it.
I remember sitting down in our living room watching the Gong Show, and my parents just loved it. My mom thought they were so cruel, and my dad just couldn't believe they let acts go on for so long. But it was basically your American Idol and your AGT all in one show. But they had this gong, this big old cymbal, and they had, I don't know, like 3 contestants, and they get out there, they do their thing, and then I don't remember if it was like the host of the show or if it was a judge panel. I don't remember that much about it, but I remember they go over and they're like, "You're done," and they hit this gong, and everybody's like, "Oh, boo!" Or they're like, "Yeah, you're off the show," kind of thing. And so that's one of my earliest remembrance of, like, I want to be on that show. And I thought, well, maybe I'm not good enough.
Well, and the truth is that's existed for a while, because I mean, think about the Apollo, the whole shtick of doing comedy at the Apollo Theater in New York is that they have that big old cane.
Yeah.
With the hook.
Yep.
And they give you the hook, right? That's where the phrase comes from, getting the hook. Because you're terrible, and so they're going to pull you off stage, right?
Yep.
So, and even before that, you can go back to the 1800s and stuff when they had the traveling groups and things that would do shows and whatever. They'd throw tomatoes and lettuce and
pennies,
whatever else at the people on stage if they were bad. So, so I guess the question that I have is, how do we define an idol then?
So here you go. That's something that people try to define, and they come up with all different kinds of definitions, because even in our culture, we try to make the definition fit our narrative. And even when it comes down to idol, well, that's not an idol in my life. And I really hope that we can talk about, it really is an idol in your life. Okay. Let's just be honest. So maybe today, if you're watching, you're thinking, oh man, I don't have idols in my life. I think one of my goals today is to show you that you do have idols in your life. And when you see an idol in your life, you only have two choices. Now that you know it's an idol, you've recognized it, and you got to do something about it, or you're going to recognize it and continue to blow it off and never grow spiritually. So,
Is it before we even define what an idol actually is it fair to say that, even your run-of-the-mill believer or follower of Christ probably has an idol in their life of some sort?
That's a tricky question. I want to say absolutely.
Likely. So maybe it's likely that we're all struggling with this in some form or fashion.
Maybe borderline, if at best.
Okay.
But I think there's things, and I'll pick on myself today with some things like fishing is not like an idol thing, because I can take it or leave it. But man, when I really get in the mood, I mean, it's like I don't really have time for anybody or anything. I don't have any time for church. I don't have any time for work. Relatives. I mean, it's just.
When it's time for fishing, it's fishing.
When it's time, and then I come home with no fish. So
I didn't come home with no fish last night.
I saw that. That was a good job. So here's the definition of idol. Idol: any person, position, or pursuit that captures too much of our affection or attention.
So can you say that one more time?
Yep. An idol: any person, position, or pursuit that captures too much of our affection or attention.
I like how it uses the phrase "too much."
Too much.
It's basically saying that anything that it can be anything that takes away our attention from where it's supposed to be.
Yep.
Takes our focus away.
Doesn't mean everything's bad.
Yeah, that thing may not be a bad thing. Well, I mean, it's kind of like, the seven deadly sins, right? One of them is gluttony. Eating food is not a bad thing, clearly.
Right.
But too much food,
right?
It is a bad thing. It's a sin.
Right.
Gluttony. So for definition, it's that person, it's that position that they might hold in your life, or at least in your vision, right? In your perspective, or it's what you are pursuing. I mean, maybe you're pursuing that career, maybe that good-looking hunk, maybe that whatever. You're in pursuit of something, and that pursuit is taking so much of your time that you've lost track of family, you've lost track of church, you've lost track of Sunday morning importance in worship. Ouch, that just hurt. You lost track in your devotion time. You're no longer praying. You're no longer talking about the values of God in your home, because you've let other things creep in. So to me, that's huge. It's the pursuit, and I think that's probably where I see the most people really, fall into this idea of entrapment by idolatry. Is it's not what they're doing that's wrong, it's how they're pursuing it. So you could have, I mean, theoretically, again, as we're defining this, you could have multiple idols simultaneously.
Oh, sure you can.
Yeah, you have the guy who, let's take an example. This is a cultural example, right? You have the guy who super involved in his job, going hard to be, successful businessman or whatever, spends all his time at work, but then when he's home, he's not actually home. So you have first idol is the job, or success or whatever piece of that. But then let's say when he's home, he's playing video games, or he's working on a car that he wants to refurbish or something, and he's not spending time with his family. He's not spending time with his wife. All of his time is devoted to something other than the areas that really matter, which are family.
So what would the idol there be?
So I mean, there you could, again, the job could be one of the idols. The car could be another idol to them. If that's where their second. And it's all about priorities, right? We go back to priorities. If job and car are more of a priority than God and family, and when it comes to family, you break that down even further. Your spouse is supposed to be ahead of your children. So, I think that there's an idol there's at least two idols in that one example.
So I think that the example you pull out is like maybe the crux of the whole idolatry conversation. Because I really think that idolatry comes down to selfish. I mean, even if you think of the Old Testament, we're going to talk about here in a minute, there's a reason why, they built golden calves. It was because they needed something to self-gratify themselves with.
We'll explain the golden calf in a second. But I mean, if you go back to, we brought up the example of AGT or American Idol or any of these shows, The Voice. People are going to these shows not just to show their talent, right? They're not just going to perform for people. That's not the point of why you go to AGT or to American Idol. If you're going to go put yourself out there, you're doing it with the hope and the desire that you're good enough to be given that recognition, which will then, I mean, all of them end the same way, right? Record contract, a deal to be
cashola,
or in America's Got Talent, you're getting a show down in Vegas. So, the whole point of these TV shows, these reality shows, is that you get something big out of it, and ultimately, I think, as somebody who has family and friends who have gone and auditioned for these shows, it's about filling a hole that they have inside of themselves that isn't filled on their own,
right,
or by something else.
I had a student that went down to down to America's Got Talent. I don't remember where they went to audition, but they came back. I mean, they went thinking AGT was like, this is it. I mean, the best thing ever. And they came back totally crushed.
Yeah.
They never made it even to an audition. They made it to the table to talk to somebody, but they never got the invitation after that conversation, which is your initial step, to then perform for somebody in some back room somewhere. And man, they had nothing but negativity to say about AGT.
Well, and the reality is, any of them, you go to American Idol, people don't understand. You don't just get to go,
right? But what I'm going
TV.
with her though is that she went with this mindset of, I hope, is what you're talking about.
Right.
But she came back realizing that the idol really was not something that was going to fulfill her. So she had no self-esteem or low self-esteem when she went, and she was like in the negative when she came back.
So was it more that she was rejected than it was that she rejected the idea of the value of that idol? I guess what I'm saying is, was the idol still present? It was just the rejection of not being able to achieve the idol that she had for herself.
Yeah, I don't know if I have an answer for that.
Because I think a lot of times when we're rejected in any form, but particularly in these audition type things, I mean, it could be happening in a job interview too, right? You put all your effort, you go to school or whatever to get a particular job, or I mean, we have college students getting degrees that are useless, thinking they're going to get a job and they don't get a job. So the same thing, but
I guess you could accept a job without even going to an interview. I guess you could do that.
Listen, okay. We're not talking about me here. So the point is, you can get rejected, and it's not that you're changing your mindset about that idol.
Right.
In fact, it's actually kind of worse. Now you feel like you're rejected by the idol that
what you were basing everything on,
your whole life goal. Like, I mean, because again, knowing people who've gone to this, a lot of times they have this like fanciful type of idea of what's going to happen when they go in. They're going to hear me sing, or they're going to hear me play, or whatever, and they're just going to love me.
Yep.
And then you find out
they didn't
even let me like do my thing. They just told me no before I even had the chance to say anything or do anything.
You romanticize it so much in your heart that it's there. Well, Bible's pretty specific on idols.
Tell us about the calf
and why not to have idols. And I want to just point out some things in the scripture that talk about how God says in the Old Testament, no to idols. It's like not even a window to open. It's not a door to knock on. It's just no. So like in Leviticus, it talks about sacrificing and idols, and you sacrifice to an idol, not to God. And God's like, yeah, don't just stop that. And he comes around and says, there's no more sacrificing to the goat. And so if you know anything about sacrifice and on the altars and to the goats, the goat was like the thing that was the symbol of power, prestige. It was at one point in Old Testament, the goat was that maybe that America's Got Talent vote of confidence that you want, right?
We have goats today.
We do have goats today.
Literally, they call themselves, or people call them, goats. Tom Brady is the
Goat. Yeah.
Michael Jordan is the
go.
The Wayne Gretzky is the
other goat.
I mean, you have these goats in different areas of life, right?
Right. So it kind of goes where guys like, don't just stop the sacrifice to the goat. Don't do that. In Leviticus, it talks about don't make idols out of metal. We make metal idols all over the place. And we're not talking little trinkets. That's the thing about people think idols and idolatry. It's always around this little trinket or this symbol, this object, and it's not. It's the symbol of the heart, the object of the heart, the focus of the heart.
Our I'm not saying, okay, this is not a political statement. It's just
then
something.
why are you going there?
It's just something ironic to me,
Okay.
right?
All right.
Our presidents, after they're out of office, what do they all build or have built in their name?
Libraries?
Yeah, they're big like altars in memory of the president.
True.
Like
True.
These are just guys or gals. Someday, we build an altar to our presidents.
Yep. Well, all the way back in Exodus, let me go back to Exodus. In chapters 20 and 35, God's very emphatic: no idols. Don't make any idols. Numbers 33 talks about the carved idols. There's no woodworking involved in this. Deuteronomy tells us, hey, go smash the idols, tear down the idols, destroy the idols. Chapter 32 talks about the wood, the silver, the gold, the bronze, the material idols that we make and we even stitch together and hang on wall. They would hang some things on walls. The Second Kings talks about how the Baal temples destroy the temple because it's all built on false gods, built on the idol. So the golden calf thing, when the people were waiting for the Ten Commandments to come down, which they didn't know they were going to be the Ten Commandments that were going to be arriving off of Mount Sinai.
They just knew Moses was gone for a really
long time. So they needed something because we see in that story, they put their hope, they put their identity in one person,
Moses,
and held him up. So you can have people like you just listed a whole list of people as the goat, as the idol. So without that, where do they go? Well, they go to exactly everything that God says don't do. Don't make an idol, and they make these idols. So this golden calf symbolized the idea of everything that you ever will want. It's right here.
The irony is that they had God in front of them the whole time.
The whole time.
The Israelites had God doing all of these miraculous things, and instead of seeing God, they miss all of it, and they think it's Moses.
Focused on Moses, and when he's not there, they're into this. Then he goes on, he talks about the stone images. God forbid Israel to make anything out of stone images. A little different than the metal, a little different than the wood carving, because the stone was an Ebenezer. Ebenezer was a marker, like in Joshua's day. It was an Ebenezer. It's where you stack.
Not Scrooge.
Huh?
Not Scrooge.
No, not Scrooge. No.
Just making sure our people know. We're not talking about Ebenezer Scrooge
But
here.
they would take the Ebenezer, and the Ebenezer was just a stack of rocks. You ever go traveling through the desert and you see these stacks of rocks?
Yes, I have.
That's an Ebenezer.
And I was like, why would people do this?
Why would they do this? Well, because something happened
I would ask
there.
the question.
Right. There's something that happened there that signifies, and there's a story there. There's a life-changing moment that happens. Now, that's in the Bible days. I don't know if that happens on your.
Well, in Joshua, it's because God saves them from the river, right? So,
right.
Yeah.
So and there's a hymn. Raise your Ebenezer. Do you know that hymn?
Yeah. It's Come Thou Fount.
Yeah. So raise your Ebenezer. I'm like, what is an Ebenezer? Like Ebenezer, and I'm thinking Scrooge and whatever. And it took me a long time to figure out what Ebenezer was. But
you have to explain it before you sing it.
Yeah, you do. You have to, because here's the Ebenezer. It's a stone pile, and it represents the story.
Millennials wouldn't get that.
Not at all. So, So that brings me to, okay, what's your idol? Because we do have, I think we've laid it out pretty good on there's about anything can be an idol.
Yeah, I think in our culture, millennials, Gen X, or Gen Z, you see this quite a bit. A lot of our idols, as the younger side of things, tend to be people or things, right? At least from my vantage point, Gen X and baby boomers, a lot of the idols tend to center around things that I never had as a kid. So I want to give it to my kids, and that.
Sure.
So the job becomes the idol, or something that I never was able to have as a kid. So now I'm going to be a kid as an adult and have it. Those become the idols. What are some other things that you've seen that we?
So I'm just making
classify.
I just said I made a list, but your college major. You know, I've had students come through my ministry to where they come up with these majors, and they're not even good at it. I mean, they're not even close to being smart enough, but they do everything they can do, focus everything. They give up all of their grown-up years to focus on a major, then they get into college and they never do it.
Well, I mean, they give up all this time and money and effort into a piece of paper that doesn't even represent who they are. It doesn't represent what they are good at. Some of the happier people that I know are the people that went right into a trade and learned a trade and work with their hands all day. Don't make a lot of money, but necessarily, but they're happy with their job.
But income can be an idol.
Sure,
you're working at it. Physical appearance. How many? I mean, it cracks me up how many minutes people stand in front of the mirror before they go in public, and like when you're in public, nobody really cares.
And that's not a gender specific thing or a sex specific thing. I think both men and women struggle with that particular piece. In
How
fact,
long does it take you to do your hair?
a long time. No, so
You probably use shampoo, don't you?
here's an example. No, well, yes, I do. Yes, I do. It's like body wash, but it's like a 3-in-1.
Whatever.
No, so you think of from the male side, you can think of all the celebrity guys who have makeup artists and hair stylists and whatever. But I mean, think about bodybuilders. One of my best friends from high school is a bodybuilder and a firefighter, and he competes in bodybuilding competitions and stuff. Think all the time that is spent in making my muscles look, specific way. And my wife and I started watching an old documentary. Remember Pumping Iron?
Nope.
So it's about Lou Ferrigno and Arnold Schwarzenegger in the 70s. It was made in 1977.
Lou Ferrigno, he's the
Guy who
Hulk,
played,
right?
They were competing for Mr. Olympia. And, Arnold had won Mr. Universe at this point like 7 times in a row or something. Arnold's just ginormous. This is before he made any movies. And I'm watching this and I'm thinking, man, they go to this like ballet dancer so she can teach them how to like, this is ridiculous. Like, who cares? You got muscles. Good for you.
Appearance is huge.
And we have magazines that women read that make them feel bad about themselves about what they look like and tell them they have to look this certain way in order to be this, to be accepted by
and
society.
never even touching on the spray tans and airbrushing that takes place.
Yep.
So appearance is huge. TV, we touched on that. TV, back in the very old days, I'd say of my grandparents, the newspaper would have been an idol after work.
Or the radio.
Or the radio. Today, though, time on social media, whatever, pick your platform. How much time do you spend on social media? I mean, you can look at your stats, you can look at your demographic on what you're watching and time of day you're watching and who you're watching.
Well, and I think too, when it comes to social media, it's how you're using social media. It's not just the time that you're on it. It's also, what are you doing with it?
Right.
Are you using it for good or are you using it for bad?
Right. How about okay, boat time for me.
No,
boat time.
No. You cannot bring up fishing, okay?
You spend a lot of time out there, and I can rationalize all of it. I mean, I come up with some great sermon material out there.
Because I don't have my own boat, when I'm out with somebody else, they're generally church people,
Oh,
In
here
fact,
we
they've
go.
always been church people. So
Here we go.
You even told me that's work. So
It is work.
So-
Well, but you can't go with the same person all the time and consider it work. You got to pass around the joy a little bit.
oh man,
Yeah,
come
so
on.
you need a new bass fishing partner. So
No, I love my bass fishing partners.
friends are huge.
Yeah.
Right? Friends really can be an idol. We spend I used to think it was by age, right? You go into, your junior high age, you've got so much time to spend with friends. Your high school friends are like everything.
Sure.
College, oh man, those are just the memory days. And then afterwards, after college, you get into I got to do some real adulting here. And friends kind of come and go a lot, at least in my world, because
Well, in the pastoral world, it's kind of hard for us.
it's
to
a little
have
different.
friends.
It is a little. Well, I have a lot of friends.
I mean, like,
I know what you're saying.
Yeah,
it
it's
is hard.
difficult.
It is hard from our perspective to have good close friendships, but it's also like in our world, ministry can be can be an idol.
oh, there's no doubt. The phrase that's thrown around in pastoral circles is marrying your church.
Yeah, and that's different than a job, because my job, I can do my job. My job is what I get paid for. The ministry is what comes from my heart.
Mm-hmm.
And where my heart is sometimes a very overloaded, over-passionate, over-compassionate place. And I don't really know how to do all that with the 5 other people that are part of my family. So it's easy for me to make my ministry sometimes an idol. And I can throw all of my 24 hours in a day into that. And I can do it 7 days a week. And sooner or later, something's going to crash. And it's not going to be me because I'm following my passion. It's going to be other areas of my life, like my worship. It's going to be my relationship with my wife. It's going to be my relationship with my kids. So I mean, I'm just talking from my own heart. Ministry really can be an idol. And I work very hard at not having that happen. Trying to be balanced. Man, that's something else I'd like to talk about sometime is balance. And that'd be more for not just pastoral stuff,
No.
but just in life. Are you balanced?
Well, to talk to you as a Christian, I mean, you can't look at the question is, how do you know if you have an idol? Well, if your life's out of balance, if you feel like there's an imbalance in your life somewhere, chances are there's an idol somewhere. There's something that you're giving too much time to. I like to say it all the time. I learned this several years ago. We should be working from our rest, not resting from our work.
Right.
If our life is in balance, that's correct balance, is working from your rest. And things like, for those of you who are believers, reading scripture, praying,
Sabbath.
those should not feel like work to you if you're in balance, if your life is correct. If you have an idol that's somewhere in your life that's in where it's not supposed to be, those things are going to be work. Those things are going to feel like, I have to go to church this morning.
Yeah.
Golly.
See, because the thing about the idol, it is, I made a note, an idol is a good thing that becomes a god to you. So it's not a bad thing. I mean, a bad thing is never an idol. An idol becomes a bad thing. An idol is always a good thing because it's good. It's what you want. It's what you're after. So
I don't know that I fully agree with that, though. I think idols are the thing that is the idol is not necessarily a bad thing, but when it becomes an idol, it is a bad thing.
Right. Exactly.
No matter what it is. Okay.
Exactly.
Well,
Because it becomes a god to you.
Because I mean, a statue of a golden calf.
There's nothing wrong with a golden
Who
calf.
cares? It's a golden calf.
It's just one thing more you have to dust in your house.
Right. It's just this big golden calf.
But when it becomes a god to you,
Yeah.
then it's wrong.
If money is your only pursuit, if all you care about is having wealth, that's an idol. That's negative. Is money itself bad? No, because we all need it, right? We need to be able to do things with money. A job is an important thing to have. Obviously, if people who don't have jobs struggle, but if your job is the end goal, if that's your idol, if that has become idolatry to you, it needs to be cut.
So how to know if you have an idol in your life somewhere? Just listen to this. This kind of hit me when I read this. I don't remember who wrote this, but idolatry creeps in where the worship of Jesus ends. idolatry creeps in where the worship of Jesus ends. For a believer, that means a whole lot. For the non-believer, you have to kind of get the Jesus part in there first.
Sure.
But idolatry creeps in where the worship of Jesus ends. Let that sink in for a little bit. I've had that rolling around my head for a few days, and I look back over my life and I'm like, man, I think when you're in balance and Jesus is part of that balance and he's the weight on the scale, when that weight shifted, you're out of balance. So don't let anything take a higher priority than what Christ is in your life. I mean, that's going to help keep the idol in your life in its place.
There should be a healthy tension, right?
There should be.
You should have a healthy tension between this is whatever this is, take thing X. There should be a healthy tension between this is taking up too much of my time or not enough of my time. Whether it's a hobby or job, whatever, everything has a perfect spot to be within our relationship, within the scope of our relationship with Jesus, the scope of our relationship with our family, so on and so forth. And if it gets out of balance, it is going to upset the carriage cart, as the old cliche goes.
So here's what helps me. Balance. It's easy for an adult to have an idol.
Sure.
Okay. As a kid, you're growing up, you're learning, and you like everything.
Sure.
Right? So that's where the adult has to come around the kid and go, here's how we're going to steer this thing called life. But what helps me is this verse, and it's so simple. It's such a simple verse. It just seems too simple. But in the book of 1 John, chapter 5, it's John's remarks. He's ending his book. He's ending his writing, and he makes this one verse. It's 1 John 5, verse 21, and it helps keep it very simple for me. I'm a guy. I need simplicity sometimes. And sometimes when it comes to idols in our lives, when I don't want to admit that is taking priority in my life, or admit that something is maybe getting too much of my attention, or that Jesus is not probably priority one in that situation, I need simplicity. So simplicity is 1 John 5:21. It says, little children, me, all right, keep yourselves from idols. Period.
Simple and sweet and to the point.
Simple, sweet. It's right there. And when we know and we understand, we remember that we are God's children. It's simple. We're there. And so I don't know. I hope today was maybe encouraging for you to figure out, hey, maybe I do have some idols, because now you got to do something with it.
And it's like we've said before. Don't beat yourself up if you're struggling with an idol, because, again, we said it at the beginning of this. Very likely, no matter where you are in your walk with Christ, probably struggling with some sort of idol. I think all of us have that uneasy tension with idolatry of some sort. So
just know that there's no other person, there's no other position, and there's nothing that you're going to pursue that is going to satisfy your deep longing for joy other than Jesus.
Well, and that's why our series or our vision for this year at Hermnaz is filtered, right? Filter everything through Jesus. And when it comes to
Hebrews 12:2,
these things that you're potentially idolizing, put them through the filter of Jesus. You'll get the answers you're looking for. That's what the Holy Spirit is there for.
Americano coffee could be an idol in my life.
Recently, I think it's been more tea for you.
Actually, I gave up on that. I mean, hat off to you tea drinkers, but I did it for, 60 days. That was, well, maybe not even 60 days. I'll give you 50 days. I probably did it 10 days past the fast. No, actually, that's not true. I might have done it 30 days.
What about the iced tea?
Oh, I love iced tea by the gallons.
This guy, literally, every time we go out to lunch or something, he'll ask the waitress, "Can I have a pitcher?"
Just bring the whole pitcher.
And he'll just keep pouring more and more.
And you think
refill the pitcher.
You think they never will, but they always have.
They just like you. You have one of those faces of
reputation.
Just, iced tea drinker.
Hey, thanks for being with us today. Morning burrito. We're going to try to get back to some burritos and some Americano to drink. At least I am. You can drink your water, but
live show's coming.
Don't want to miss that out.
Have a great week. We'll see you next week.